All right, everyone, we should be live, but as usual, give me a moment to make sure it actually goes live both on YouTube and on Odyssey. Got everything muted, so on that part, I'm already ready. By the way, to people saying that I'm late, I do not schedule these in advance. I just go live, so I'm not actually late. A wizard is never late. Okay, I am live on Odyssey. By the way, you may hear some construction sounds in the background. I think one of the neighbors is doing something out in their garden or something like that. So, and we are not live on Twitch as usual with the Q&A streams because there's no way for them to do the super chat thing. I will be doing some more reaction streams, and keep in mind next Sunday is also Halloween, so there will be a Halloween special live stream. There will be super chats as usual, but I might actually go for 2 hours next week. So yeah, mark your calendars on Halloween for all of you that are staying at home to mind the candy as the kids come by to exact their toll on you. I will be here as well and broadcast it out the window. And then all the kids in the neighborhood will avoid your house because of the constant profanities, maybe. The cat is currently singing at the moment. She's been rocketing around like a racehorse for the last like half hour. So just getting her exercise. That's good. They got a yard now, so they've slimmed down a little bit. Yeah, I can't be as late as Joe Biden, by the way. It would be impossible physically. And of course, I've got my lime drink. No spoon clanking necessary for that. Cold water with a lime squeezed into it. And that's basically it. So I will mainly be doing super chats today. I will be doing them both for YouTube and Odyssey. It always takes a minute for people to sort of get in here. Almost 200 people watching. So we've got 2/3 of a BLU, a Biden loser unit. A Biden loser unit is 300 people watching live, which is about what they get on the White House streams usually. Then a bunch of people go on afterwards and pile on the dislikes. So anyway, we do have a few things to discuss as well, as usual with these Q&A streams, before I get into the actual super chats. The first is the NSBA apology to Biden. I made a video about it this morning. This is surreal because the NSBA, the National School Board Association, they are big time fans of Joe Biden. It's this teachers union sort of group. They're lock, stock, and barrel. They're on board with the DNC and stuff. And the reason why they issued their apology letter, it was specifically to people who were members. It wasn't to the public at large. It was to people that were being, they were losing money because of the attacks on parents that were going to school board meetings, protesting CRT, etc. It made it difficult for certain groups to raise money. So they immediately went into, they froze and were shaking with fear, and then they went into backpedaling mode, disavowed their own letter. What I pointed out this morning is that if this letter, and it is, was one of the major impetus behind Merrick Garland getting involved and ordering the FBI to keep an eye on those parents that are protesting critical race theory because they're basically domestic terrorists, that argument no longer really holds weight if the NSBA has apologized. And by the way, this is kind of like a reverse version of cancel culture when you think of it. You've got this leftoid move, desperately unpopular. Money was hemorrhaging out of some of these associated groups. And so they had to apologize and backpedal. Now Biden's dead in the water because he no longer has a particular point behind his witch hunt against parents. And McAuliffe, he must be shaking in his boots over this. losing the one most major group that sort of signed on to the idea of this hyperbole, which is, well, there's harassment and physical threats and stuff like that at these school board meetings. Well, the NSBA apologized for it. And essentially, there's no longer any threat, I guess. But it was hyperbole. I mean, it was basically social panic bullshit. It was just like Q or any of these other things. The idea society is being upended by this group of people, and they're doing terrible things. We need more government. We need to do something about it. But it was only ever a minority of a tiny fraction of the people showing up to the school board meetings that even got hot under the collar. And situationally, in some of those cases, they were justified anyway. But the FBI was sent after these people. So that's the first thing. Is Biden he's been blindsided by this. I'm sure that alarm bells are going off in the White House right now because of this. The other one is Biden as Cornholio from the other day. Even the Wall Street Journal. This will be a main video for tomorrow. The Wall Street Journal is now expressing some doubts about Biden's capabilities, he goes on a CNN town hall. This is friendly territory with Anderson Cooper, a friendly figure who is not going to hardball Biden at all. He'll softball him or wiffle ball him, depending on the situation. He's not going to throw a curveball at Biden. Everything was carefully, I'm sure he had the questions beforehand. He knew what was going to happen. He's there literally in a crowd of adoring fans, the remaining people that still support Biden, and he still can't pass muster. He can't even take 2 goddamn hours and remain respectable without basically devolving into Cornholio, forgetting where he is, saying, oh, why am I here, man? And like weird shit like that. And this is what we've come to expect from Biden. At some point, it'll get stale just because he does it so much. People just shrug their shoulders and say, it'll be like Bushisms. Oh, Bush said something weird and meme-worthy? Well, that's new. That's a change. It'll be like that. He is basically the Democratic Party's George W. Bush. By the way, that's not a great thing to be. We've got our first super chat from Rich, $5 without a comment. Thank you very much. Some more caffeine money. Startorius, how's it going, Styx? Keep on clanking and doing what you're doing. Also, wouldn't it be funny if Trump did an SNL-style skit as Alec Baldwin? That would be legendary. Would they let him on there to do a skit? Yeah. Even Odd says no. Tony Soprano, Fauci experimented on puppies. Not joking. Yes, I did see that, although I do have to point out animal research happens all the time. That is not unique to the NIH, the Wuhan Virology Lab, Fauci's people, etc. It is unfortunate, and animal testing is now being combated by the U.S. Senate, and should be, by the way. We should just have voluntary human testing. There are so many people out there. You give them $50, they'd be willing to get medication tested on them. Why deny them the money? Why test it on animals? It costs more anyway. You have to breed the animals. There are guidelines involved. Fuck the animals. Let them go and be wild and free, or be pets, and test it on humans. In some cases, why don't we offer criminals? They're in prison for a long period of time. Say, we'll shave a couple years off your sentence if you're willing to get this injection. Why not? It benefits them. They have to weigh cost versus risk. Risk versus reward, like any other person does when they make a decision. I fail to see the problem ethically. I think that's less unethical than what they're doing with puppies or with rats on a daily basis in medical labs all across the world. Why don't we just fast track things? And then it's human testing. Screw the FDA. Who needs their approval? The humans volunteered. Maybe you paid them. Maybe you gave them some other kickback. Why not? Yeah, I realize, you're paying people. That's a problematic within scientific studies because it could skew a sample. Maybe. Yeah, you get more poor people maybe signing up, or more criminals. Maybe there's a socioeconomic sort of bent to that. You can fix for that. It's not impossible. There's millions of prisoners in the United States because the government loves slave labor. So, if you're in prison, you're like, oh, shit, I assaulted someone with a knife. I got 5 years in prison, but they're offering me a couple of years off just to take pills for 30 days. Yeah, it might screw you up, but so might being in prison. I would think that would be way easier. I'd take the pills. 2 years off my sentence. Sign me up double, and then let me out tomorrow. Kev's Ink House. You should really hook up with Ryan Dawson, the Oracle of Modern History, among other things. He's uber canceled. Get him on, and report.com. I don't know what report.com is. Yeah, I've talked to Dawson. I like the dude. Some people have a problem with that, by the way. I think it makes me, a Nazi or something. I liked it. Oh, this is another thing that I'll bitch about. The other day when I was talking about Vito Gesualdi, some people jumped down my throat because Vito, of course, was part of the cancel culture Alex Jones thing. And he's not a free speech warrior. And I pointed out, look, I also defended Hassan Piker last year when he had a second strike, and I think couldn't live stream on YouTube, if I remember correctly, for a couple weeks. Now, I know Hassan Piker would chuckle if someone like me is deplatformed, but I have principles. I don't care who it is. Yes, if someone is a member of cancel culture, I'd like to speak out on their behalf, maybe at some point, because the leftoids are getting so goddamn rabid, they get red-pilled on the subject. It is possible. Look at me. I voted Obama in 2008, considered myself basically a leftist until the middle of the 2010s almost. I was never a conservative or anything like that, but I finally realized the modern left is not like the hippie left. that initially I was sort of marginally in league with because it was anti-war, because of George W., because of Afghanistan and Iraq. I got red-pilled to the leftoid threat, to the fact that communists are violent and crazy. And then I am the way I am today. Well, if no one had taken the time to explain to me why I was wrong, I'd probably still be a leftoid. I'd have like fucking pink hair and be drinking Soylent, and I'd be paused and shit like that. So I don't think anyone is beyond the capability of saving. Lawrence007, Chris Chan believes he is Jesus now. P.S. Do you know anything about mystic Islam or have a book on the topic? I have studied mystic Islam, and I do have several works that I've considered editing on the topic. I haven't edited them yet, although there is one work, I can't remember the exact title, that I did on the mystic side of Islam. You'd have to search through my books blogs, Tarl Warwick Books, and that's either on Blogspot or on WordPress. It was a good work, I do remember that, but I can't remember the author or the title. When you get through hundreds and hundreds of works over a few years, sometimes you can get confused. Tony Savage, seems the mandates are targeting cops, city administrations, union workers. Might be a way they're solving their pension problems. Your thoughts? Well, upon lawsuits, these people that are retiring will still get their pensions. To be clear, when they say, well, we might give these cops their pensions because they're refusing the vax, they retired. They retired properly. They gave you their notice. You have no standing legally to withdraw their pensions. Fuck you. Kev's Inkhouse, Ry Dawson, ANCreport.com. That was spell check. Yes, I know ANC Report, yeah. Amasang, Sunday morning listening to Styx while playing Pokemon Yellow on a Game Boy. I soldered in a new battery so I can save the game again. I remember when you would import Missing No to that one, it would screw the game up and Pikachu would disappear. And I thought that was great because I thought that it was just a fucking annoying. Let's take red or blue and we'll rehash it. We'll change a few of the characters available and we'll have a little Pikachu follow you around with a little cutscene once in a while. That's really great. King Salmonfish. Ohio and Florida have swung red and everyone knows they fortified the election. Trump World Domination Corp to the moon. Cornholio stanks crashing. Good. Yeah, there's a lot of defortification going on. This is why I say if you're in Virginia, you need to vote for Youngkin. Don't be demoralized and blackpilled and think it can't be won. The race is probably closer than you think. and there's, based on what I've heard from the handful of people from Virginia that watch my material, especially in the DC suburbs region, there is no enthusiasm for McAuliffe. He's fallen by the wayside. If that's true, I can remember in 2016, enthusiasm for Hillary was so low. Then Youngkin will win, actually. It's not even remotely outside of the realm of possibility. It's perfectly fine and dandy to say that he'll win. I still give the advantage slightly to McAuliffe, but I need another round of polling before I can make my final estimation because it could narrow further. If it's within 1.5 points, Youngkin probably wins. It's just barely outside of it now, so I'm not confident in saying McAuliffe falls by the wayside. I hope so. Ryan M. Right now, Virginia will go to Youngkin by 1.5, in my opinion. That's well within the realm of possibility. That's just within the margin of error. By the way, can you imagine the meltdown? This is why I beg you Virginians to vote for Youngkin. Fuck the race itself. Think of the fallout. Think of the whining by the legacy media. Think of the whining by pollsters, Nate Silver and stuff, who thought that Terry McAuliffe was a shoo-in a month ago. Think of the whining by the DNC and how mad the leftoid Dems will be. I'll tell you exactly what will happen if Youngkin wins. The leftoids will immediately blame the DNC establishment, Bidenism, the neoliberal status quo. They'll go whole hog. They might even use the infrastructure bill and hold it hostage just to hold it over their fucking heads. Moderates, so-called, Shaheen, Manchin, Sinema, and their ranks may grow if that happens because they'll see the writing on the wall. They'll say, no, we need to take a step back. It will cause so much friction within the Democratic Party, they could crash and burn before the midterms. This means not only do we get our properly functioning country back because the Democrats are swept aside, they're scooted into the dustbin for now. Not only does that happen, we could see before 2024 their party crash and burn enough for them to actually have to do an autopsy on why they're such losers and reform the party. They may need to kick out the leftoids. They may kick out the centrists and become a left-wing movement. Either way, at least there is finally a reform within the party. It may go off in la-la land direction towards Sanders and AOC. Let them do that and lose then. Let them get completely crushed into irrelevance so that finally in the United States there'll be some sane government left. I think it would be wonderful. So many super chats. Oh, Jesus. I will get to the Odyssey super chats as well fairly soon. Don't worry. There's just a bunch here. Inquisitor Jack. More people coming around to the idea of a franchise having to be earned is one of the few things that gives me hope long term. Liberty is greater than equality. Absolutely agree. Son of Tiamat. You beat Anomaly so hard he got salty and called you low IQ. Great work. Yeah, he's still salty. Yeah, fucking 2 months later, he's still making random posts about me being a Trump dick sucker and all of his dumb shit. And it's like, you blocked me. You're talking shit behind me when I can't see it or have to log out to see it or get shown it by a fan. I've got problems. He hangs out, Legendary Energy, he hangs out with a lot of famous people, bodybuilders and models and shit, supposedly. Oh, that's great. I saw your latest music video. It wasn't something that I'd be interested in watching again. Adonis Adams, I had a dream and where Stolas saved my life. I was trapped on a spaceship with spore people from New Vegas and he stopped me from getting infected. Stolas is a good dude. The Everyday Witch. I want Youngkin win for the memes. Exactly. Oh, it'll be just like 2015 right over again. It'll be so funny. Their meltdown will be legendary. They'll blame racism. They'll blame gerrymandering. They'll blame, I don't know, voter suppression and all these other things. And it'll help to expose them as the morons that they are. Lee Gregory, Ku Klux Klank. Yeah. I officially disavow this particular meme. But the Klan, they were like hyper-Christian and stuff. They don't really exist anymore. Now it's a bunch of dudes with beer bellies that do barbecues and shit. Talk about black people occasionally. My second nephew. Sunday morning coffee and sticks. Good morning. Good morning to you too. Opinionated junkie. People say we should move on from Trump and move to other candidates saying we can do better than Trump. DeSantis seems good, but can be corrupted for now. I still would back Trump if he runs. And DeSantis, to be clear, won't run if Trump does. Rand won't run. Where does that leave me? There's no one else in the GOP field to vote for. I'm not voting Ted Cruz. I'd stay fucking home. I'm not going to vote for him. The Michelangelo. Why were we never taught about the Nazi opposition in history class? Because they were erased and no longer exist. Socrates, post-Peloponnesian War, Crusades, etc. Protect the Constitution, not democracy. I do not consent. Interesting. QWERTYMAN321. I saw your occult video 287 on henotheistic history, Christianity and various tribal deities. Can you recommend material on this subject? I've probably got plenty of it. Look in the academic section on the Tara Warwick Books blog, and I'm sure that I have some there. There's a write-up about each individual entry. You don't need to buy a paperback copy if you don't want to. You can always look up that same title on archive.org. You'll find the original scanned manuscript. I like paperbacks and soon hardcover as well for my compilations. But if you wanted a free digital copy, they are all available. There's millions and millions of books on every subject you could possibly think of. King Salmonfish, I'm curious how many people have any idea that Trump's wall was a spiritual occult psyop. Objects are defined by boundaries versus McKenna bad trip stuff. No, it's more of a pragmatic move because walls work. That's why people build them. Simple Logic 90, Fauci dog story has me shaken. Not me, actually. There's plenty of things to complain about Fauci about, but him being involved with the NIH while the NIH was involved secondarily with such research, animal testing goes on. Cosmetic companies, medical firms, they do animal testing. They shouldn't. They should use voluntary human subjects. Then we can skip the animal testing. We can determine what it does to humans, and it'll be better science anyway. It'll be quicker. Seors, it's Sunday and a guy in a robe is telling us to be nicer to each other. I'm telling everyone I was at church this morning. That's kind of like a church. Clankdom is kind of like a religion. All right, over to Odyssey for a few chats from there. Joe Mama, Tim Pool's latest studio has a sword on the wall behind him. Looks familiar. At least you have plants and empty energy drink cans. Maybe he has the sword in there in case there's a leftoid guest that spurgs out and attacks him. It's not beyond the realm of possibility. Leftists tend to be violent people. Captain Murphy, after watching Scott Adams on Viva and Barnes, I really dislike the man and can only harass Clank him from now on. No more friendly clanks. I don't mind Scott Adams. I mean, I understand he takes up the dubious line. I don't even think that he's strongly pro-vax. Hear me out. He is a hypnotist. He's good with charisma, with literally fooling with people's brains. What he sometimes does is take various sides of the issue variously in a slightly veiled form. And for the average person, they're not going to notice the discrepancy. And so he gets the best of both worlds. Little bit of criticism, little bit of applause. The applause tends to be louder. Just branding. I have a big problem. Adonis Adams, any tips for finding yourself? Buy a mirror. I see myself every day on camera, so I mean, sometimes I get lost, but yeah, it's basically because I'm in a semi-urban area. I usually navigate by mountains and trees and shit, and there's not any mountains in this country. It's finding yourself. Just think really deeply about the things you're interested in and do them. That's the best way to go about it. Be true to yourself. Don't cover yourself up for anyone unless you absolutely have to. Opinionated junkie, establishment wants a rhino in office. Oh, they're not going to get one. There's no support for a rhino. If Trump runs, he's the nominee, almost certainly. If Rand gets in and it's not a packed field, he would probably prevail. DeSantis at this point would be likely to prevail. And all three of them are more on the liberty-loving populist side. Not completely. I love it when people say I'm a sellout because I'm not being a purist ANCAP or something. I prefer governance that works and reforms things somewhat, as opposed to government that promises you lots of things and can't deliver them. That's the problem with the liberals. Look at the liberals right now. What's the big problem? They can't deliver for their fans. They can't even get their own party in order. To Human Centipede. Was Biden really channeling Cornholio at the CNN town hall, or was he making a shit? Makes it funnier because he was looking Cooper right in the eye, too. It's possible. I really think that he just had a dementia moment. The man has Alzheimer's disease. That can be a symptom. He suddenly freezes up, doesn't know what to, I mean, I know. If you're talking and you don't have a podium or anything to do with your hands, okay, sometimes you have that problem. Kamala compensates. She just does the shuck and jive. Why can't Biden try that? It was funny that Reuters had to fact check the other day claims that Biden went like this because he was saying zero. And they were like, well, it's not actually a white supremacist hand sign like some evil conservatives are claiming. The irony was lost on them. Biden's got real problems. Darun Albane, look up Denver Accords, Dems gun control and confiscation plan. Example, fingerprint to buy ammo. It won't pass. Gun control is on its way out, which is a good thing. Maybe the NFA at some point will get ripped apart. A crafty Huragok. Osho, democracy is by people, of the people, for the people. But what if the people are dumb? Yes, he uses a different word that we can scantily use on YouTube and other big tech sites at this point. It's right. Direct democracy fails for a reason. That's why we're a republic. Orange Goku, Styx reporting for duty, going to vote for Youngkin in a couple of weeks. Clank. Excellent. Make sure to take at least a couple of other people with you that are reluctant to vote. Get them in there and tell them to fucking vote. If every person got like 2 or 3 reluctant voters to do that, their race would easily be over because it's so close. NMMK rescues like Puppy Kitty, New York City, where they trap pregnant street cat or dog, and they do emergency spays and abortions. Isn't that wicked? No, spaying is not wicked. Spaying and neutering is a good thing because it prevents the stray population from exploding and then all the strays starve or get diseases. Doesn't just help people, it helps the animals too because it controls the population. The great Scalzini, you've mentioned your hatred for pro sports. What are your thoughts on recreational leagues and sports for fun? Golf helps me get out of the house. Those are fine. My problem is with spectator sports. Greasy dudes eating the hot wings and guzzling the cheap piss beer while watching dudes in spandex pat each other on the ass. I just see that as bizarre. I don't understand. And some of these things, not even sports, like NASCAR is not even a fucking sport. It's sort of like saying chess is a sport, I guess. I drive around all the time. Am I engaging in the sporting behavior because I went 5 miles over the speed limit, which, trust me, I would positively never do. I disavow speeders. Emily C., I have zero interest in spending Thanksgiving with my Biden-supporting relatives. Does this make me a bad person? No, a bad person would be you show up anyway and then you start rambling about politics, which tends to be a Thanksgiving table topic. I don't know, just say you've got COVID. No, to be clear, I've got some members in the family that are more on the leftoid side, and I don't have a problem with it. It's like, just bust their chops, troll them a little bit. I always find that funny. The Grizzly. Hey, Styx, how do we combat the doomerism on the right? I feel the biggest thing that's stopping the movement of the libertarian populists like myself. I'm not doomed, but Christ, everyone else I talk to says America's over, time to divorce. Point out why they're wrong. Some of them will listen to logic. I mean, they wouldn't have the liberty-loving mindset if they were completely dumb. They're capable of being salvaged. Part of it is a Russian and, Chinese propaganda campaign. They're literally pushing critical race theory, among other things, to try to convince the West not to fight at all because they know they lose if we do. It's just a psycho war effect. It's psyops. Count Pasta Creep. Alec Baldwin, always impersonating Trump. Glad to see he moved on now and is impersonating Dick Cheney. Yeah, that story gets weirder and weirder every time you look it up. At least it knocked the Brian Laundrie horse shit out of the news cycle. That was getting old. Cannot West, what still makes you to believe in elections in the U.S. after what happened in 2020? Every authoritarian government fortifies their elections. Ah, Grasshopper, here's what you don't understand. In the U.S., the elections are run by the states. Now, many of the states are solid red or blue, and the outcome's already predetermined. That means there are only about 20 competitive states, and half of them have already defortified in the wake of the last election. Don't worry, things will be different in 2022 and 2024. That's my prediction. Cornholio, I withdraw my consent for Biden to impersonate me. Lake Titicaca, TP for your bungle. King Salmonfish, here's more money just to agree and disagree. It was pragmatic and a cult. The meme of geometric boundaries is anti-globalist and links to everything. Well, yes, in the psychosocial sense, of course. But it's also a pragmatic barrier. Long before there was any conception of occultism, back in the Copper Age, people were making primitive barriers. Partially to keep things in, like animals or little kids that might wander off. Partially to keep things out, like wild animals that might eat you. Some other Copper Age tribe. It's a physical barrier. So many goddamn fucking. Mr. X 1776. Styx, watch the videos by Ken Wheeler on original Buddhism and monism. It is a very rich rabbit hole. This channel is Theoria Apophasis. Now, thank you for that. I'll have to look that up. Chico Cortez. So it's going to be gas, liquid, or solid, Joe Biden. Oh, hi, Anderson. I didn't see you standing there. Yeah, I have a feeling he soiled himself multiple times. Every meme about Trump that was negative has come true under Joe Biden. Thomas, hey, Styx, what's your advice on joining the military? I was going to enlist, but after seeing the persecution of soldiers over the vax and CRT, I've begun to question it. Any thoughts? I wouldn't join. Looking back, like at the time, back in the 2000s, I was like, I could have joined the Coast Guard. That'd be kind of fun. If I was stationed in Lake Champlain, I wouldn't have to go far. And, there's occasional narco activity up there, but it's not too difficult. Probably end up fishing half the day and snorting coke because it's the Coast Guard. They work with the CIA a lot. I wouldn't join. In all honesty, I just wouldn't. But that's me. You have to make that decision for yourself. NMMK, I'm saying abortions on late pregnant cats and dogs. Well, I mean, how is that different from eating meat, technically speaking? Take a cow or some similarly cognitive animal and you bolt gun it in the head and kill it and eat it. How's that different? Except that the cat fetus, maybe it didn't feel anything. That's the hope. I'm not sure that there is any. When people talk about animal rights, but they eat a lot of meat, I'm immediately like, well, I mean, you have your opinion, but it's it's not 100% consistent. I will admit that the vegetarian public has a little bit of a point about that. Drew McTighe, $10. No comment, thank you. IARC-I, or 1ARC-1. Given that the U.S. is a relatively young country on the global scale, do you think that a hot civil war is a significant possibility in the near future? No, I don't think that we're going to have a civil war or a national divorce or anything like that. I think a lot of that's Chinese propaganda. It's to get us not to fight. It's to get us to be disunified. The commies have been doing this for 100 years anyway. They're still doing it. It's just under a different banner now. They've reformed the way they do business, but they're still the same old fucking commies. Opinionated Junkie, Youngkin could lose since Obama is involved. I don't know how dragging Obama in is going to save Terry McAuliffe if indeed the polls are as bad internally as they may be. Joe Biden's underpants. We're always wet. Someone get us onto a dryer, please. Bobby Lane. Hey, Styx, here's some money so you can keep being awesome. What's been your favorite Brandon moment so far? I still like the one where he tripped and fell in the shower, supposedly, and broke his foot and had the ROM walker on because he was chasing his dog trying to pull its tail. Well, I mean, if the official story is true, that's pure dementia. No normal person does that. That's crazy. And the legacy media reported on it, but they did not decide to actually question, hey, why is the president trying to chase his dog on the wet, slippery shower floor to grab its tail? Nobody asked that question. Opinionated junkie. If the U.S. broke up, it would be 3 world countries. The U.S. won't break up. Hopefully, it'll expand in the future. Let's annex Canada. Then we can make sure about the maple syrup quality. It's not as good as Vermont's. We need to do scientific studies about why that's the case and rectify it. Trippy liquids. Why do cats bury their poop? For the reason that all civilized creatures try to avoid excrement. This is why, like, dogs will eat, like, shit and stuff. I'm a cat person, by the way. Cats try to bury it and tend not to eat animal shit. Maybe because they're better. Zethinian, animal rights, carnivores want their steak and eat it too. I'll be having steak tonight, actually, and fuck it, it will be medium rare. I cooked a steak not too long ago. I put the picture on Twitter, and I'm like, I'm going to force feed Razor Fist a medium rare steak, and the number of people who jump down my throat like, oh, it looks raw in the middle, that's actually rare, hey, that's actually medium, hey, that's actually a pork chop. Reasonably, I think even more than politics, and I've watched food channels. Me and Liz watch like Simply Sarah and stuff like that all the time. Food really disunifies people. Anything culinary is way more cutthroat than politics. Maybe you've seen some of this. Have you seen some of the comments on culinary channels? It doesn't matter. It can be a $10,000 a plate 5-star super posh restaurant, or it can be a greasy spoon. It can be someone just starting out doing goddamn mac and cheese for the first fucking time, or it can be someone with 20 years experience in homemaking. It doesn't matter. No matter what they cook, how they cook it, it's automatically wrong. Their picture is never looks good enough. The recipe can always need tweaking because opinions are, I mean, in the culinary sense, like in politics, in many cases, you have 2 parties or 3 or 4 parties or something. They represent the so-called spectrum of views. With the culinary stuff, here's 10,000 ways to cook cream spinach. So nobody can agree. It's honestly like, I'm kind of glad that I'm in news and politics and I don't have like a culinary channel. I get trolled way harder. Homeschool dropout. Glenn Youngkin was outside my work shaking hands with everyone clocking in. I'm debating whether to early vote or do day one to avoid shenanigans. I would vote on the day of, generally, just to make sure you're physically there and shit, and everything gets counted. Off LeMayo, what do you do if your anima is belligerent? I think you mean animal, or are you talking about like spirit or something? If you're talking about if your animal is belligerent, it depends on the kind of animal. I don't know. If the cat's belligerent, well, it's a cat, so you can't expect any different. Let's see. Back to Odyssey for a minute. Captain Murphy, he said curfews work to stop COVID spread. Who said that? DeSantis? I can't believe that he said that. Rarest bundles. He was thinking about what flavor ice cream he wanted at the town hall. Yeah, Biden thinks a lot about ice cream. Gets asked a lot of questions about it, too. When he gets asked a question at all, sometimes people are even afraid to ask him wiffle ball questions. He's been softballed and become combative. Joe Mama, does David Icke count as a modern-day occult topic? I just watched a video of him explaining the existence of lizard people. I'd love to hear your views on the lizard people thing. I realize it's pronounced David Icke, but I say Icke because I say ich anytime I think of him. I am not a fan of his work. He's off in the spooky woo field. It's not a cult. It's the spooky woo field of grifting. He makes a lot of money with his the ad revenue from convert your car's engine to run on water. Drink shots of colloidal silver and you'll never die. Rub vinegar into your scalp and your hair will grow back, and all this other bullshit. It's horse shit. Via ADHD, yo, Styx, Odyssey chat will allow us to chat US dollars, but it says you have to attach an account to your profile in order to get that shmoney. Also, another group of migrants preparing to rush the border soon. Yes, I saw. I actually made an exclusive, which is on Odyssey, as well as the other sites, BitChute, etc. On the topic, there are about 10,000 additional migrants from Central America, illegals, not migrants, that are rushing towards the US-Mexico border. Will they be stopped? No. They're going to become replacements for some of the people that become unemployed because of Joe Biden's mishandling of the economy. They won't want increased wages. You offer them $14, $15 an hour, they'll be real happy. They don't give a shit. They'll live 6 to a room in the city and save huge amounts of money, send some remittances back. They'll have their banana chips and fucking steak and all of the other. They'll be living the dream. Their expectations are way lower than yours, and the corporations and the neolibs that run the government, they're counting on this to keep propping up their slave empire. Captain Murphy, Scott Adams said that, not DeSantis. Oh, yeah, Scott Adams is wrong about curfews. They do not impact the spread of COVID. If they did, then we would have seen evidence of that by now. I'd like to debate him maybe on COVID. It'd be interesting. Although I like the dude, so, you know, I'm not going to take him apart like a fucking can opener after a can of tuna like I do most people. It's harder to hardball people that you actually like, you watch and you kind of like. Shlomo Begelstein, Alec, that's a wrap, or I double tap Baldwin. Alec, we done with this ordeal? This gun's starting to feel real, Baldwin. Okay, I'll stop. Yeah. I like how some people are like, it was a prop gun. It can't shoot bullets. You don't know what a prop gun is. Oh, my God. Shut up. Offlameo, I did not mean animal. Oh, so you mean anima. If you're like spirit, your natural force is belligerent. I don't know what to do, dude. Mine's not belligerent. I have a great time 24/7. Party all day. Get paid to give political opinions. I don't know. I don't know the feeling of belligerence. Denying S. Is it possible to eat meat and still not want animals being tortured or experimented on? Yes, of course. I agree with you. I'm just saying that if you support meat eating in the modern consumption sense, it's factory farming. I would say that's a form of torture. I don't care if meat prices double. I do believe in ending factory farming. It's bad for the environment, and I don't mean in the CO2 emission sense. You realize what the runoff contains, all the offal that comes from that? You realize how much actual pollution comes from farming when you got 10,000 chickens in one barn and they're marketed as free range because they're capable of standing up instead of crammed into a cage where they can't even do that? No, I don't feel comfortable with that. I think that it's inhumane. I don't care about eating meat. I eat meat. I'll be having steak later. I wish that all farming were home farming. Small farming should come back anyway. Get rid of all the big industrial farms, like confiscate Bill Gates bullshit and give it to some smaller farmers to deal with. And then stop mistreating the farmers with constant fucking regulations. That's how to do it. Back in 100 years ago when it was all small farming, at least the animal was raised properly. They get sent to the slaughterhouse, they still get mistreated. But at the very least, they had a life. Yeah, everyone has to die at some point. That's not the problem, but their life is miserable. Look at the way veal is made. Oh, I'm going to take this cow. Yeah. I'm going to cram it into this cage, right? Yeah. It's going to stay there for its whole miserable life, unable to even goddamn stand because it'll make the meat nice and tender. Oh, wow. I'll pay more for that. Yeah, not in, no, dude. I'm sorry, but you got to examine, like your conscience, I know predominantly will tell you if you really think about it that that's not right. If it's real free range farming, the animal has a normal life. At some point they get killed. Again, a predator would eat them and kill them in real life and out in the wild anyway. That killing the animal isn't my problem. Killing and eating, it's fine. It's tasty. Having an entire suffering life beforehand, I don't know. I think that's like we've created hell on earth for life forms that are capable of feeling pain. Seors, your thoughts on breaking the two-party system? Can it be done by starting very local city, county, third-party candidates and working up? It already exists. There's a Libertarian Party. There's a Green Movement, Constitutionalist. There's a U.S. Communist Party. It's just that generally speaking, people don't want to rock the boat that much. They want reform within parties, which is a testament to their patience and the fact that they're still willing to deal with it. Right now, we see the GOP being reformed in the way that you're talking about, by the way, by Bannon and people like that. Why do you think that they're trying to subpoena Bannon? They don't want him to keep knocking on doors with his thousands of people there, flipping precincts in favor of non-rhino candidates. They're terrified of the dude. The Republican Party's fucking terrified of Steve Bannon. That is why they want him in jail. BW, the Democrats are using TDS to campaign against Republicans. Do you think it will work to make everyone vote against them and keep the Republicans out? No, because of recency bias. Trump hasn't been there in a while and has been effectively silenced by big media. Well, that has an unintended, really positive consequence. If he's not able to talk to the average person, they're not thinking about him. All they fixate on is Biden's failures. It's actually, they should unban Trump if they want to stop Trump, ironically. IARC-I. It's just ARC. Okay. Follow-up. Even if it's just propaganda and enough people believe it, wouldn't that still lead to the same outcome of conflict? Not necessarily, because the average person in the United States doesn't want an armed conflict. There's not that much social stress. Look, we've been through all sorts of shit before. A depression, recessions, the oil shocks. We've been through fucking literal race wars on a local level, civil war, all these things. Almost got destroyed in our infancy in the War of 1812. We survived all of that under conditions that were way worse than today. You didn't have oil heating and the internet and all of these other bread and circus things to calm people down. Fight with your voice. The pen is mightier than the sword. That's why their first step, they're not trying to gun you down for disagreeing with them. They're trying to silence you. They're afraid of your voice. They're not afraid of you taking up arms. They're afraid that you'll speak out against them and innovate and then work around their censorship. That's what they're afraid of, people like me. At the end of the day, they're terrified of influencers that aren't on the dole, that aren't on the payroll of some corporation that they control. There's so many super chats. BC, more Let's Go Brandon protests in Michigan planned for Joe Biden's visit today. Yes, make sure to rev up the loudspeakers, drown out the Bidens. Philippe Brevard, with inevitable urbanization and lack of electoral college structures at state level, ain't America doomed to fall to leftism, statism, and nanny states? No. You have an urban society that's not a liberal nanny state. It might be harder to promulgate, but it is possible. Not every urban area and suburban enclave in the U.S. votes far left, just to be clear. That's number one. And number two, I don't think urbanization is inevitable with proper land management. What we need to do is make sure that the single family structure remains intact and that we don't have what's happening in California, which is them trying to inject medium density housing everywhere. Overdevelopment. If we can stymie the overdevelopment and close the border, we don't have to have the population skyrocket to the point where we look like a second China. Thomas, thanks for the advice. By the way, I'm going hunting soon. Can I get a clank for good luck? I don't have a spoon to clank right now, so I'll have to use the pocket knife here. A little bit of a clank. I like it. Knives are fun. Spoons are more fun, but don't generally defend yourself with a spoon. I wonder what you're hunting. What is your weapon of choice? What do you choose as your weapon? Nerdbane, you got any Halloween movie recommendations? Hocus Pocus and Halloween Town are yearly watches for me. Me too, by the way. I'd recommend the movie Monster Squad. It's basically the Goonies versus the Universal Monsters. It sounds good. Goonies would be on the list. Brotherhood of the Wolf, Ninth Gate, which is a Polanski film. I know, I'm not a fan of Polanski, but I got to admit that movie's fun. Dagon, the Spanish movie, I think it was 2001. Extremely violent, a lot of nudity in it, so you may or may not like that, depending. And I thought was good. There's one scene in it that is arguably the most gory scene I think I've seen in any movie other than like maybe Cannibal Holocaust or Man Bites Dog. It's pretty well made too. The blood and special and theater effects they did were top notch for a B movie. Inquisitor Jack, I source my meat from either wild caught or humane farming. There's pretty great subscription services available nowadays. See, that's the way to do it. Kill it yourself and let it live its life before you kill it. Preferably kill it while it's in combat with you so you get injured, and then you can tell your kids about all the scars you got from fighting a bear. Ejiro, Styx, Ick has been right on some topics, though. He isn't a nut. Love your show. Well, he is a nut. But he's like Mar or Jimmy Dore or something. Broken clock, right? A couple times a day. Juan Du, Can you do a shout out for non-political alt tech channels? I make MMA and martial arts content. Wando, actually, I believe it'd be pronounced. Yeah, so you consider that a shout out. Yeah, there are plenty of new tech materials at this point that aren't political. A lot of gaming content, a huge amount of gaming, especially streaming. A lot of like makeup and cars and automotive, stuff like that. Alt tech is definitely more, well, new tech at this point, definitely more than just the political fringe at this point. I'm not on the political fringe. I'm one of the biggest users. I hit 40,000 people following me on Rumble the other day. The day before that, 55,000 on Odyssey. I got almost 142,000 subscribers on BitChute. I think something like 52,000 on Minds. Mad Anthony Wayne, almost missed stream. I got into Darkest Dungeon. Are you a fan? You going to play the sequel? Are we clanking Adams today? Maybe send him a Styx mug. No clanking of Adams, I think, today. I don't think he quite understands the joke. So leave him alone. I've never heard of Darkest Dungeon, so no. BW, if globalism ever ends, America will be Venezuela, both in population and government. No, the U.S. would be fine. Venezuela is a monoculture when it comes to the economic situation because they borrowed against their one cash crop, which is oil. The U.S. doesn't have this problem. We have dozens of major exports. And by the way, globalism in the sense of global trade is fine. Globalism in the sense of universal international level legislation and stupid regulations and open borders, that's the problem that people have. Global trade's fine. People have been trading and traveling freely for a long time. There were arguably, in some cases, less travel restrictions between countries 200 years ago, as long as you looked reasonably like the people among which you wanted to mill about, at least. There was different times back then. Generic screen name. If you're in Ohio, check out Market Wagon. Delivery service brings meat, eggs, vegetables, etc. from local farms to your door. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. Sounds good. I'd rather raise my own chickens just for the eggs than eat them all. Buck Fiden. Check out Super Creep. And I sniffed a girl. Joe Biden parody video. Can you do a reaction video? I could, maybe. It'd probably be hilarious. I like the Let's Go Brandon song that was viral on iTunes. So many super chats. I probably no more super chats. We're running up towards 50 minutes, and I've still got about a dozen to get through here, including the ones in Odyssey. So let me get through these. No more super chats, please. Just wait till next week. Next week I'll go for 2 hours because it is Halloween. So don't worry, you'll get your chat in. We'll be having a good time. Wando, my channel is called The End of Thoughts. I had to spell though the normal and not the mean to women way because of censorship. I make martial arts and MMA content. Okay, End of Thoughts. I think thoughts is spelled a different way from the super chat, apparently on the channel. And so that is a shout out. Thank you for your donation. Count Pasta Creep, the episode of Beavis and Butthead where Cornholio becomes a cult leader. Absolutely the state of the nation. Yeah, Beavis and Butthead's great. My parents wouldn't let me watch it as a little kid, so I had to watch the reruns when I was already older. Because I was always an ADHD kid, and I found weird shit like that funny, and I would imitate Pee Wee Herman, vexing my mom. She took the VHS tape of Pee Wee's Big Adventure, and she hid it because it would make me act up. That's the kind of kid that I was. It's fucking cool then, and I'm fucking cool now. Drew McTighe, hunt and consume venison. It lasts me all year. Archery bag limits are unlimited for deer in certain counties in my state of Maryland, and there isn't much hunting competition. Yes, was it Maryland and Connecticut, I think, had a massive deer problem like 10 years ago. They were getting sick because there were so many of them, so then they loosened up restrictions. I know that Connecticut had that problem for a while. It's like deers are raiding the trash and shit. MLA Throp 555. Ever grow your own magic mushrooms? No, although I did take psilocybin once. Amanita I took 3 or 4 times. Liked that better. I liked Amanita more than psilocybin when I was back in the psychotropics. Emily C. Will the large protests in Italy and France work to end the vaccine passports and or mandates? Yes, if people keep it up. Eventually, businesses will bitch about that because they'll suffer damage. Business owners don't want the crowd. They don't want the sound and shit like that. They'll start lobbying the government. Go to where the money is and you can get the government to do whatever you want. Elizabeth Beardsley, just a yes to Dagon. Amazing for its time. Yes, Dagon was an exceptional movie. Extremely underrated for a low-budget film. CGI, not necessarily the best, but the practical effects that they did very, very well. The acting was reasonably solid. And the concept, it's based on Lovecraft lore, to be clear. Most people here, if you like horror, would like it. Keep in mind, again, there's some X-rated material in that. So if you're not into boobies, you probably wouldn't like it as much. The Grizzly. Hey, Styx, did you know Dagon is based off a story from H.P. Lovecraft? Speak of the devil. Dagon is also part of the Cthulhu mythos. Good occult short stories to read. He's my favorite author. Love that spooky stuff. Yes, I listen to Lovecraft on audiobooks sometimes on YouTube and elsewhere. Find it fascinating. Poe as well. Things like that. I like spooky stuff. Inquisitor Jack, Darkest Dungeon is a pretty neat turn-based horror game with a neat art style. I'd recommend checking out a trailer. Yeah, I don't really... Most of the games I play open-world first-person shooter. I like RPG elements. This is why I like if they inject more RPG into the next Fallout, it'll be godly. That's what I want. Same with the next Elder Scrolls title and similar games. Like a Red Dead Redemption, but imagine with considerably more actual options. Basically, I just want to go into a big world, which is reasonably believable. I want to build stuff. I want to destroy stuff. I wish they'd adapt Geomod like they had back in the fucking PS2 era with Red Faction. I want to be able to blow walls apart, not go through doors. I want to decorate with the dead bodies of my enemies. I want to chop trees down myself, turn them into materials, and build my own little picket, and then recruit people, maybe threaten them into joining me, and go raid things. That's all I want. Imagine if Fallout 4 had more involvement, how much better it would be. Or any similar game. FU2 10.5, thoughts on crypto towns becoming reality in the US. That'd be interesting. Haven't heard much about that. Barely know much about NFTs. I have the feeling that I'm missing out. Either that or I've really avoided a rabbit hole I would dislike, so... Back to Odyssey, we have W. Evan Watson. I gave you all by LBC. I should buy some more. LBC to the moon. Yes, LBC tends to tack well behind, but at the same rate roughly as crypto in general. However, I don't expect it to hit its prior height anytime soon unless there's a real skyrocketing. I have a great deal, by the way, disclaimer of LBC. Quite a lot of it. If it ever becomes considerably valuable, I could make a significant amount of money off that. Another reason I use Odyssey. Another reason I use all the new tech sites. A part of it is, for me, I mean, I'm reaching audiences that are disparate from the mainline, like old tech audience. There's no reason not to branch out as a content creator. Earthquake in LA. Well, so what else is new? That happens every single day, like 12 times. My dad was in LA once, and at one point, I guess, back when he was in the Marine Corps years ago, I guess he was on leave or some shit. He was in LA, and they had an earthquake, like, a 3.0 or something, and he's like jumping under the bed saying, oh, shouldn't we get out of the house or something? And he was with like some dudes from California at the time. They're like, oh, no, this is normal. All freaked out. I actually felt an earthquake once. It was from up in Montreal, but because we were in an old building, brick, an insulated, very shitty building in Woodstock. It was swaying quite a bit. And I was like, at first I thought I was dreaming. And then I'm like, oh shit, wow, an earthquake. But then I was like 10 years old. So I just thought it was cool. Night 36, when are you going to play games with Razer? I already do with regards to steak and pineapple on pizza. I'm just joking. I don't know. I don't really do multiplayer that much. The only multiplayer I've done for years now is I played Napoleon Total War with Liz. We played some matches together. It was funny. She managed to clobber me one time. She sniped my general and all my artillery with a couple of Russian Dragoon units, and I was really sad about that. And then I misclicked. I accidentally limbered up my artillery. Like, I had one last artillery piece that was across the field. And I could have used canister shot to destroy the remaining infantry she had, and I would have been able to organize my last men and probably win. But she was coming with the cavalry, and I would have had time to get off a shot against him, and then my infantry would have been able to win. But I accidentally pressed limber up, and so her men are with their bayonets out marching towards my cannons, and my dudes are putting the cannons away, and I'm like, oh, well, there goes that match. By the way, yes, pineapple goes on pizza. Doesn't have to, but it's good on pizza. As long as you drain the liquid away first, unless you want a pizza that is extremely drippy. The only drippiness should be from the cheese, not from the pineapple juice. And also medium rare steak goes on pizza, so it's all good. I did a video of that once. Just imagine his private reaction must have been vomiting, contributing to a Razor Fist becoming the next Eugenia Cooney, I suppose. Anyway, I think that I'm going to go off here. We've gone through the super chats, which is good. We're running up on 55 minutes. So I actually, my steak is marinating, so I do have to like squishy it up and shit like that. But yeah, keep in mind, pineapple on pizza, steak should be medium rare and marinated for hours beforehand. Yeah, I'll take a picture of it with my potato phone and people can call it a pork chop again. One last super chat from YouTube. Wayne, any movie with the 3 Bs can't be all bad. Gonna check out Dagon. Yes, definitely watch Dagon. It is a Spanish-made movie from the early 2000s. It is a low-budget B movie, but it is exceptional in most ways. And it's somewhat tight to the Lovecraft lore about the Cthulhu sort of thing. Very interesting. That's about all. Peace out.